I'm here today to talk to you about the most important thing in trading. It's your state of mind. It's not just in trading. Your state of mind dictates how you see the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you, if we can just sort of briefly, loosely plan out what we're going to be doing this morning. We're talking for an hour. I don't want to try and overcook things and give you too much to think about. We'll have a short break and then we'll go all the way through till just before lunchtime. A little bit about me, guys, before we go on to obviously what we're going to be talking about. But I want to try and qualify why I'm here and why what I'm going to be talking about is so important. I might just ask a couple of questions before I do start. Whereabouts are you guys on your training program? How early into this are you? 1 week. Okay. Has anybody traded before at all? Okay, so you've dipped your toe in on various levels. Great stuff. And has anybody sort of looked into the psychology side of trading, or in business, or just in life? Wow, well that's great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that completely upside down, because I'm not saying what you've learned isn't relevant. Of course I'm not. But I'm going to paint a picture for you, and I'm going to show you a truth. I don't want anybody to believe, firstly, anything that I say. This is quite important. I really mean that, but I really mean that. I don't want anybody to believe anything. I just want you to be open to it, because the things I'm going to be saying to you, they might get what I call itchy. How can he say that? That doesn't make sense. Uncomfortable, thank you. Exactly that, it really is. And some of the things are, but I want you to be okay with that. Because I wasn't. And I'm going to tell you what it was like when I was learning this. I'm going to take your hands and I'm going to walk you through the whole process. And what we're going to be learning is the most important thing you will ever learn. Not about trading, the most important thing you will ever learn. And that's a bold statement, but I intend to back it up. The most important thing you'll ever learn is how your mind works. The more we understand this computer, the more we get from it. So, why am I here? Who am I? My name is Stephen Desborough, and I, like you, was a trader. I was a trader on the life floor, which you might have heard of. I was on the old exchange, which was a beautiful building called the Royal Exchange. And I worked for a guy called David Kite. You might have heard of Kite Futures. Extraordinary man, a wonderful trader. And I was just this little kid, you know. I think I went from the stock exchange to the futures exchange, and I was maybe 18, and there was just this noise and chaos, and it would just look like absolute fun, and it kind of was at times, a lot of the time. And then I joined a company called Goldman Sachs, which I'm sure you've heard of. And so in and out of my trading career, which funnily enough went up and down, I suppose, like a lot of people, and my time within the industry. When the exchange closed down, like a lot of people, I went on to be, not immediately, I went on to become a screen trader. And I wasn't very good at it. And it was completely different to trading on the floor, so it kind of didn't really work. I kind of enjoyed the banter. I loved being in the office. I loved, you know, bouncing ideas off with people, etc. But it just wasn't where I was that particularly good. And that must have been, I don't know, I probably finished that maybe 10 years ago. But leading up to that time, I was always fascinated in us. I can't explain it better than that. Even as a kid, I was always interested in who we are, why we are, etc. And it didn't really mean much to me. I just lived my life and was a trader and lived this. But about 10 years ago, I was interested that we periodically read in the papers, or we hear about that we use 10% or 30% of our potential, and you know, and one day I read that and it kind of just jumped out on me, and I thought, what if we used 20% instead of 10, or 40% instead of 30? How do they know? How does someone know how can they quantify what potential we've got and what potential we're using? It was just, the whole thing interested me. So I thought, what can I do with this sort of thirst? And I thought, I'm going to go and become a hypnotherapist. That was my first toe dip. And I live in Essex, and there's this Essex Institute of Qualified Hypnotherapy or something like that. I can't quite remember. And it was quite substantial. It had a good name to it. And so I thought, I'm going to go and find them. And the long and short of it was, I couldn't find their address anywhere, and I was walking around, and I was sort of, and normally this would be so typical of me. I've tried, that's good enough, and I'd walk away. I'd always just nearly do something, or that's what I thought. And I kind of saw this accountants, and I walked in, and I thought, oh, maybe they'll know. And a woman was on the phone, and I thought, oh, she's on the phone. That's again my get out. That's good enough for me. I tried. And she said, I went, oh. So I waited, and she came off the phone, and she said, how can I help you? Come in.
Very sorry, late.
That'd be wonderful, please do. That's fine. Yeah. Good morning. Yes, so I hear, and that's a real shame. But you've not missed too much. I'm just introducing myself and painting a picture. So I said to this lady, this receptionist at the accountants. I'm sorry?
I thought we were trying a hypnotherapy.
I was trying hypnotherapy.
And then suddenly become an accountant.
Well, no, I was in an accountant's trying to find the address of where the hypnotherapist was. Did you remember that? And she said, wait. Okay. I said, I think you're going to think I'm a bit crazy. Is there a hypnotherapist training around here? And she said, I'm on the course. And I went, no way. I said, what's it like? She said, life-changing. I was like, I was meant to see you. And that was the start of what brings me here to talk to you today. So as I was trading, I was sort of, hypnotherapy was sort of a way of relaxing, and I'd help people and doing, you know, the odd client, but it really wasn't anything. And it was when all of a sudden I was in this trading on screens that I kind of saw myself and my colleagues getting in my own way, or getting in our own way. And as such, I stopped trading on the screens, and I became a risk manager to a group of traders like you guys out there. And there was about 30 traders, and I really quite enjoyed it because I was on the other side of the fence, really, for the first time. From being in the firing line, from being on the floor, or from being in the screens, it was kind of like, wow. And I had this new level of thinking, a new perspective around trading and what was behind trading. And I get an email from a letter from a guy saying, I'm a coach working with traders, can I come in and talk to you and maybe work with your traders? And I rather greedily, for want of a better word, thought, well, of course you can come in, but I'm interested in what you're going to say, because I'm interested. And it turns out, you know, he's become a sort of acquaintance of mine. And he went away, and I thought, he doesn't even trade. This was my beliefs, okay? This was my belief at the time. He doesn't trade. I've traded, I've seen it all. I wonder if there's a job, a career, something in this for me. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go away and I'm just going to immerse myself for 3-6 months going to read some books. I'm going to go on some courses. I'm just going to see if there's something new there. And that was probably, I don't know, 9-10 years ago. So that's my little journey to here and why I'm here in front of you. I love what I do. I'm so fortunate in what I do. And I really want to make you aware that I'm here to serve you in some sort of way. I really want to make you aware that I'm in this with you. I'm going to give everything that I've got to you guys. And I really mean that. Everything that I think is relevant, that's going to help you. That's going to help you. If you think of an assault course, an assault course comes to my mind, and there's, you know, a way around that you don't have to go over the wall and you don't have to go through the mud and over. I'm going to help you do that because I went through that. I went through that with my trading. And it kind of can take the wind out of you. The job really can take the wind out of you. Not just trading, any job, but trading's a challenging number. So anything that I can do to help you tap into the magnificence that you are. That's what I want to do. So my journey now was, so with hypnotherapy, you kind of, a lot of hypnotherapist thing, don't get me wrong, really profound, helpful. It's a huge market, and I feel blessed. I don't use hypnotherapy now, but I feel blessed that I was introduced to it because it's got me to this understanding, which is what I teach now. I was the poster child for searching. So I was like, what about that book and what about that course, and can I learn that, and is that going to help me do that? And I just wanted to learn more and more and more and more and more and more. And the search is over because I found it. And that's what I'm going to be teaching you guys. So from hypnotherapy, I went into NLP. Have you guys heard of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming? It's kind of a way of mirroring success, matching success, finding how success works in others, in other people, in other fields, and bringing it into your own world. CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. So, you know, I've become qualified in a lot of things, and EFT, emotional freedom technique, and all of these different things, which was great. And I was using this working with traders in my business, and it was great. But there was still something missing. And I didn't know what it was at the time, I really didn't. And this is what we're going to be talking about and learning about today. Firstly, guys, what I want to do is I'm going to encourage you to do whatever seems right for you. And if that means putting your feet up on the desk, I won't encourage it, but if that feels right, do it. But if you want to write things down, do it. I'm kind of wanting you just to listen to me. That means you can write, but I want you to get a feel for what I'm saying. Because, again, this was from me on the assault course, I'll be writing everything down. You know, what they were saying, what that was, and what it was. And you kind of, I want you to get a feel for what I'm talking about, a sense of it. So, I was a master practitioner, or I am a master practitioner of NLP, and it's going to get cold, I might as well leave that there. Once I get talking, guys, I'm sorry. And I went on this course with a friend and a mentor of mine, Jamie Smart, and he said, I'm not going to be teaching NLP anymore. This is the last master practitioner course I'm on. And I was there where you guys are, and I'm listening to the guy who is one of the world's leading NLPers, and I thought, what? it just bamboozled me. It would be like me going home to my wife and saying, I'm not going to watch football anymore. There's just a new sport. She'd go, well, what? It was so ingrained. And he said, I was introduced to something 7 years ago and I poo-pooed it, and in the last couple of years it's come back into my life, and this is what I'm going to teach for the rest of my life. And I went, ka-ting, I need to know what he's talking about. And this is what I'm going to be teaching you. With NLP, there's 250 psychologists approximately, I think it might be more than that, out there at the moment. And on some level, all of them are helping to fix people. That's what I used to do. A stress trader would come to me and we would work on a technique, a theory, a way of taking away stress. Brilliant, and we'd have all of these different techniques and he'd be off. And then he would come back and he'd say, well, I need to work on something new, or this or that. So really all I was ever doing was putting a bucket underneath a leaky roof. And what I teach now is the actual source. And one of the huge differences between working with people and on some level seeing them as broken on some level, he's stressed, I need to fix him. He's unhappy, I need to fix him. He's angry, or whatever it might be. Guys, none of you are broken. No one is. We just think we are. And so what I do is I talk to the innate well-being within all of you. Whereas before I'd see someone as broken, I could see it. I could see it in the way they were behaving, and stressed or angry or not really being grateful for what they had, or but the profundity is everyone's got innate well-being. And one of the things that I realised when one of the goodness knows the infinite amount of things that... That's not a problem. Good morning. And what was your name, sir?
Jake.
Jake? I didn't even catch your name.
Miles. Sorry, Miles.
Miles. And... Pratik. I'm not going to remember anyone's name. So Dave, nice to meet you.
Susan.
But one of the huge things that I saw as I keep talking about what I'm going to be teaching you, which I'll come to shortly. But one of the huge things that I saw was in my trading career, how I got in my own way. And it was so profound, it was so, oh my word. Until that moment, I always believed. Good morning, sir. There's a small fine, you have to buy us all coffee. Come in, please. What was your name, sir?
Ravi.
Ravi, nice to meet you. Is that I could have easily blamed the market. It was the market. It's the market. It's my P&L. It was the fellow who's in the pit next to me, or the guy sat next to me in the office. It was the fact that I went to the toilet and I missed that opportunity. There was a whole host of reasons as to why I wasn't doing as well as I thought I should have been. I was just up against me, I just didn't see it. I thought I was up against all of these external influences, as the world does. And we're going to be learning about the game changer of trading here. I want to kind of make this as interactive as I can. And you're going to be so much better than the last group, I can just feel it. So I want you guys to feel free to ask me some questions, or to give me. I want to make this interactive. I want to get to know you. I want you to be relaxed enough just to say what's going on for you. So that's just an introduction into me and what qualifies me to be here in front of you today.
It's not a matter of fact everybody is qualified to teach anybody about things.
I'm sorry?
I think it's
No, please.
Just that, because you mentioned you're qualified, so I just mentioned that everybody is actually qualified to teach anybody.
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
anything.
What I meant by what qualifies me is an expression, but yeah, everyone's qualified, of course they are. Just at this early stage, has anyone got any questions?
You say actual source. How do you mean?
Thank you. The actual source. Talk about, let's go right at the deep end, yeah. The actual source. Our innate wisdom. Innate wisdom.
Innate wisdom.
Or, you know, what you might hear in trading is intuition. You know, the flow, the zone. So we're going to be finding really what is that mystical thing, you know, we can read it in books. Get in the flow, getting in the zone, trading in the zone. I'm going to show you what the zone is. I'm going to show you what the zone isn't. Anybody else? Anybody feeling a bit prickly with any of the things I've said so far? I'm not sure about what he's saying, and can't be that easy, or is that sounds too hard, or anybody
You told
got?
us not to believe you, so it's easy to.
Great out. Thank you. That's come back to bite me.
The reverse psychology.
Hypnotize, does it really work? Use the term hypnotize.
Hypnosis.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is very powerful, yeah. But hypnosis, this is what's amazing about hypnosis is, again, I don't want to go too off track, but I will answer your questions if I kind of think they're relevant, is that hypnosis, I used to get people into a state, a hypnotic state. I'm saying to you guys, the source, our natural state, is a hypnotic state, is an open state.
Can you hypnotise anything against any really strong beliefs? Strong beliefs or
I've never,
physical things like
I don't know, because I've never really done that myself. But hypnosis isn't what I thought it was. You know, it's just a beautiful state of very calm. You know that moment just before you go to sleep when you're just not quite awake, and that kind of thing.
Well, I think I'm going to get up at 4 o'clock to come to here. Yeah.
So,
So hypnosis is not what people think hypnosis is.
yeah, well, it wasn't for me. So,
You can't force somebody to do something which doesn't want it is closed mind. So people act like monkeys and stuff because they have a part of them that deep inside them. They're willing to do it, but you can't force somebody. That happens against.
It's the will.
It's like the remote control.
so how are we going to get the most from this course?
Participate.
Participate. Anybody else? I mean, I didn't actually put it out as a question, it was more of a statement, but I like that. Thank you.
Interaction.
Interaction. How do you think we're going to get the most from the course? What sort of thing is really relevant when we are in a situation such as this?
Encourages.
Pardon?
Anchoring.
No, sir.
We can anchor different stuff to our things that we can recognize if we are trading. So we can use different parts. as
Sure,
well, so-
anchoring is very much NLP based, and anchoring is
Depends on what we anchor.
is flawed. Unfortunately, I believe it's flawed, and I'm going to say the reason why. Anything else? What else comes to mind? To get the most from this course, to get the most from anything.
We need to understand ourselves first.
Understand, okay.
Gotta be open-minded.
Open-minded, thank you. One of the first things that I went on, and I've been introduced, I've been learning and teaching what we're learning and going to be learning in today is for 5 years. And one of the first modules that I went on, they said it's going to be a 3-day module, 2 or 3 day module on listening. And I thought, I'm going to the wrong course. I've been listening all my life. I think I've got listening covered, I didn't have a clue.
You think?
I didn't have a clue how to listen. And I'm kind of guessing that you guys might not.
If you didn't, I'm sure.
So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning how to listen. Because when we learn how to listen properly, deep listening or whatever you want to call it, you are going to get more from what I'm saying. Not just more from what I'm saying, but more from the whole course. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and then, something like that? Yeah. And then after 5 minutes, with the wife's a great one. With the wife's a great one. And then all of a sudden, after a few minutes, you kind of think, I didn't hear a word of what they said. I didn't hear a word of what they said. It's so common, isn't it? But we were listening.
You were hearing.
But we
He was
weren't.
staring.
You were hearing.
We were
hearing.
we were hearing.
You
We were
just
hearing.
waiting for the moment when you can start speaking. So basically-
Brilliant. That's such a great point. It's such a great
But so
point.
there's
It's
a
so
major
true.
problem
Not
between men and
waiting.
women.
You're trying to
Because
think
men.
in the mind. How can I chip in?
Wow. Can you see what we're doing already? We are challenging what we think is how it is. That's what I want you to do. That's every moment I'm with you. I want you to be open to the idea that how you think life is, how you think trading is, how you think the weather is, how you think listening is. I want you to be open that you might just be able to see it completely differently. How you think it is, maybe not how it is. So, listening. Such a great point, hearing. We hear, but we don't really listen. And one of the things that that's gonna help you to get the most from this today, from all of the talks that we have, is to be able to listen on a deep level. So I walked away after 3 days of deep listening and I was like, I had no idea. Why? Because we get so caught up in how we think something is that we don't really participate. We just live in that belief system. And it was the same as me with listening. So I'm going to split you up into twos, and I'm not going to do very many things like this, but this might be the only time we do it. But the word participate came out earlier, which is great. Thank you. And so I'd like you to participate. And I'd like you to be open again to hearing something new. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to, a few of you in here, maybe 2 groups of 2 or 3 groups of 2 on the sofas, just go and standing outside. It's not going to be for long, maybe a few of you in the kitchen area. Just grab a partner, and this is what I want you to do. I want one of you to talk for 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And I want you to talk about the best holiday you've been on, or where you'd like to go on holiday and why you'd like to go there. And the other person, I'd like you just to listen. I'd like you to listen with nothing on your mind. How you listen to a piece of music is how I'd like you to listen. When we listen to music, we don't try and work it out. We just listen. And what you'll find is, when someone's saying, oh yeah, I'd love, my favourite holiday, I went to the Grand Canyon, it was beautiful, and all of a sudden you'll be there, I'd like to go to the Grand Canyon. Yeah, I've always heard about how beautiful it is. I can just picture the sunsets. Yeah, really. And you're listening to them, but who you're really listening to? Yourself. And that's what I've done all my life. We get so used to this misunderstanding of how to deep listen. We don't listen to people. So you guys are listening to me. You're all looking at me, most of you. But you're going to get distracted with your own thinking. What's he saying? I've heard something like this before. I'm bored. Actually, what time's lunch? I wonder where I'm going to go for lunch today. Yeah, still looking at me. But you're not really hearing me. And this is why this is so profound. It's because in our innocence, what did I say earlier? We get in our own way. Now, no one's being rude, I'm sure, and just thinking, I'm going to completely ignore everything he says. It's just that we don't realise we're doing it, even with our wives. My wife's talking to me and I'm nodding and I'm saying, I don't do it now because obviously I do listen to everything she says.
Most of the time.
But, and what will happen is, or how I used to be is I'd be looking at my wife and I'd be going, yeah, and I'd be thinking, I've heard this. Yeah, I've heard this. Yeah. This is great, love, yeah. I've heard this story before, I know how it ends. Why is she telling me this? Wonder what we're going to have for dinner. The football's on soon. I wonder if she'll be finished by the time the football's on. Yeah. Can I distract her? I'm just going to wait for her to stop talking so I can then say, can we catch up with this later? So I'm not listening to my wife. I'm listening to me. And this is why we don't get very much. Often we don't get very much from our conversations. It's because our mind is so distracted. Now guys, I'm not going to tell you that, or I'm not going to teach you how not to have a distracted mind, because that would be pretty impossible. I'm going to help you to understand how the mind works. So we kind of, without doing too much, reset ourselves back to clarity. And all of a sudden, what happens when you listen to someone? When you really listen to someone, you get touched by it. You get touched by what they're saying. Doesn't matter if you've heard it 5 times. You get touched, you get a richness of what they're saying, you get a feel for it. Now we could have someone walk in here now and he could be speaking Russian. Now I might not, I don't understand a word of Russian. But even if I don't, I can get a feel for what he's saying. If I'm not distracted in my mind. Distraction is the biggest thing that we're up against. It gets in our way. Now I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of traders over and had thousands and thousands of sessions with guys, ladies and guys. And one of the things I often talk about is how we can listen. Because we start to get a richer experience of whatever we're doing. And it's all a trick of the mind that takes us out of this moment. You're all in this room. But during my talking this morning, every single one of you would have left the room. You'd have been thinking about the past. What happened yesterday? Can't believe the train was late. Is it going to be okay tonight? Am I going to have lunch? I think I've heard something like this, what this guy's saying. This sounds interesting, this is really boring. Whatever it is, we've all left the room many, many times this morning already. Because we've been distracted. You guys are looking for an edge. That's all traders are after, is an edge. They're after an edge over the person that sits next to them, the person who's on the other side of the world who trades a similar way. They're after an edge. Everybody's after an edge. I'm going to point you to the edge that's within all of you. I just want you to be open-minded. Okay. Open-minded. And that really is, I want you to be open-minded that how we think life is, it ain't. So maybe, if this is the first week you've been doing it, you don't really know your colleagues too well at this stage, so just grab anybody. Sit in various parts of the room and sit outside and listen. Just get a listen. Just feel what it's feeling and then be aware, because you will get distracted. You will get caught up. Something will come into your mind that's going to take you away from what the person's saying. That's fine. It's going to happen. It happens to me. It happens to all of us. What we do is we have some sort of awareness. Oh, man, I was just thinking about lunch and where I was going to go. Okay, it's not relevant. And we kind of just reset just by having that understanding. Any questions? Nice. Did you? No. What did you say? Sorry. Anybody else? Anybody got anything?
Two person, one talk and the other listen. And
Yeah, and then we're going to swap over. When I come round, I'll say.
swap.
Okay. Good to go. Super. Enjoy your talk. Enjoy listening. Possibly for the first time in your life that you've been aware of it. Anyway.
Just listen. No notes taking.
No. Certainly no.